So here's a sentence I hear a lot. We tried Copilot and it was okay, but it gave us kind of slightly generic answers. It wasn't really that useful for care, so we stopped. Or maybe you come from using a tool like ChatGPT. Now you're required to use Copilot for work and you're finding, it doesn't quite have all of my context, doesn't seem to know me as well. Often we start using these tools and we don't ever go back and set them up right to really work for us. Other times there are really helpful features and we just don't realize that they're there. And so that's what we're going to cover in this session. Today, we're going to go back to basics. We are configuring Copilot to work properly for care. My name is David Mance. I'm a CPD certified AI trainer and also consultant, and I specialize in helping care leaders adopt safe, responsible AI. So out of the box, Copilot doesn't know you work in care. It doesn't know what CQC or care inspectorate is. It doesn't know what you personally value. So it tends to give, obviously, generic answers, and generic answers can feel useless when you're dealing with complex, regulated, values-led work. So what we're going to do today is change the defaults. We're going to set Copilot up so it reflects the way that you work and how you need to communicate. So here's what we're covering. We're going to look at how to set your response preferences and custom instructions so that it just gets you a bit more. We're going to understand when to use deeper reasoning versus getting quicker answers. We'll look at saving, scheduling, and sharing prompts with your team. We're going to look at how to make Copilot a bit more cautious and evidence-aware, and ways that you can use Copilot and just set it to be a bit more careful, I suppose. We're going to look at SharePoint permissions and the risks that you get of oversharing once you have Copilot in there. We'll look at things like how to get professional email drafts that actually sound like you, and how to get Copilot to prioritize your most important emails. We're also going to look at how to move over from ChatGPT to Copilot. So how to bring over not every bit of context, but the most useful context with you. So there's a lot there. So let's move quickly. Everything we cover today, you're going to be able to implement right away. So you're definitely going to get sort of huge value if you stick with this session. So let's start with something that a lot of folks overlook, and that's just the options that you have, the different modes whenever you're using chat in Copilot. I'll just, what I'll do is just demonstrate for you. So when you're in Copilot, it's kind of intuitive. It should be intuitive at least, but you kind of have this auto setting, and that will kind of handle it most of the time. It'll kind of make a judgment of what, from your prompt, from what you first ask it, what it needs. But you do have these other options: quick response, think deeper. They're the first ones. So quick response, exactly what it sounds like. It's fast, efficient, works well for simple factual questions. Think deeper is where Copilot kind of pauses and it actually works through a problem step by step. It's a bit like kind of goes away, has a little scratch pad and kind of writes up something and then comes back and presents it to you, rather than with quick. It's like it's talking to you. It's just going one word at a time. And so you'll find sometimes it takes a bit longer, 30 or 60 seconds, but what comes back is genuinely different. It's more nuanced, it's more structured. It's more likely to catch things that the quick response won't give you. You've also got these other options. You may not have Claude. You have to kind of go into settings. We won't go into that now, but you can actually choose the specific model. It's simple to say that the bigger the number, the more recent it is. So 5.5, think deeper. That's the most recent one. It's the most powerful. It's it's as good as there is out there right now, for example. So just an example, let's say that you ask Copilot to help you analyze the implications of a staffing model change. Okay, what happens to your CQC compliance, your cost base, your rota patterns? If you asked that on quick response, you'd get maybe a kind of bullet point summary. Whereas with Think Deeper, it'll actually walk through the dependencies. It will flag the tensions between them. It will surface things you probably hadn't really even thought to ask about. So I guess just going back to my slide here, just a really helpful rule of thumb. If you'd normally spend more than 10 minutes thinking it through, switch to Think Deeper. You'll see the value there the more that you use it. Okay. Oh, just one other little thing I was going to say, actually. So as we go through this, I realize that you will have different versions of Copilot. So as we go through, I'm going to kind of show you what it looks like in each version. In this case, it's interesting. It's not showing. How strange. Let me just refresh and see if it shows. But it would normally show here my subscription. So it would say premium. And of course, the minute we start recording this webinar, for the first time ever, it's not showing that. Here's a different account, which is basic. So the difference is about £10 a month in reality on your subscription. But you'll see that the basic version actually has the same options here. I mean, I can't get hold of Claude, but it's got every other kind of model to choose from. But as we go through this webinar, I'm going to try and remember to flag, okay, this is what you get with the basic version. This is what you get with premium, because it can be confusing when you're watching a webinar like this, and then you go to do something and you're like, oh, I can't get it. Like, for example, there's certain agents that aren't available here, which you'll see that I have got on this one. So yeah, I'll just try and flag that as we go. Obviously, this stuff changes quite a lot. So if you watch this a few months after I've recorded it, the interface could well have changed a little bit, but that's just where we're at, isn't it? Okay, great stuff. So I want to look next. So that's modes. So just when you're putting in your prompt at first, just think about, selecting the correct mode depending on what you need. All right, next we're going to look, I mean, this might be the single most valuable thing you do today. Custom instructions. These are like permanent settings that tell Copilot who you are and how you want it to behave. And that will then go for every time across every conversation that you have. If you imagine, like, without these instructions, like I said, it's what you get out of the box. So you're starting from zero every time. Whereas with them, Copilot really understands your context before you've even typed a word. So here is how to get there. Let's just have a look again. So you can get to settings either down here, or I think you can get to it also over here. And then on the left-hand menu there, you've got personalization, and then you have custom instructions. So here's a kind of example that I've put in. It gives you an idea of the type of thing and perhaps the type of length that you might put in here. So it says, I'm a COO at a CQC regulated residential care group in the UK. My work involves quality assurance, staff management, and regulatory compliance. Always use clear, plain language and British English. Be appropriately cautious. Don't overstate what you know. If you're not fully confident in any part of your response, flag it explicitly. Use phrases like, I'm not certain, but, or you should verify this. When summarizing content, use bullet points to make information easier to scan. Avoid long paragraphs and keep each point concise. Do not use emojis or em dash. Those are just two of my personal pet peeves. And you can see, like, you could add points here. Like, I can ask it to think outside the box, speak with empathy, be more poetic. If I hit be concise, it will kind of, so it's added something there. Keep responses short and focused. So yeah, so you've got that in there. That's the first part of it. And then also under personalization, you've got work profile. Go into that and just check basically that it's got your correct settings. It kind of knows who you are. And then lastly, saved memories. So these are slightly different from your custom instructions. So when you go in here, I mean, you may not see anything, but you may see if you haven't used Copilot much, it probably won't have saved anything, basically. But this is a list of anything that Copilot has kind of picked up about you. And it can be a bit random, and you'll find the same with any AI model. So if you're a ChatGPT fan, for example, if you were to go into the memories it has, you go through them, you're like, yeah, that's right, and then you'll see one, you're like, what on earth? Like, why did you pick up on that as like a core thing? And so it is really helpful, whatever model you're in, to kind of check what these are. Now you can sort of, there's two ways that you can put the memories in. So like I said, one is that Copilot adds them automatically as you use it. It'll pick up things you mentioned and save them. The other way is to add them manually. So either through that manage save memory screen, or simply by telling Copilot in a conversation, remember that I prefer emails under 100 words, or remember that I sign off all. Hang on, let's have a look. Let's have a little go, actually, just so I can show you. So yeah, so that's got, I mean, this is a funny thing about it. Like you can't edit this here. And so I could bin it all, but I can't sort of edit it. But let's try actually just adding one. I don't actually know if this is going to work, but let's just try this sentence. So remember that I write to families with a warm, empathetic tone and avoid clinical jargon. Now I'm just kind of like, basically, so I've left it on auto, just put that in. Let's see if I'll just be interested to see how it responds. Okay, now let's see if that's updated in memories. Okay, writes to families with a warm, empathetic tone and avoids clinical jargon. So that has worked. Who knew? So the difference between these memories and the custom instructions is subtle, but it is worth explaining. So with the custom instructions, these are like your permanent standing rules. So it's stuff that won't really change. Like, this is my job role. This is my values. Whereas memories are more like running context. So specific facts that build up over time, and they could be added or removed as things change. If you want to know how to move your context from ChatGPT to Copilot, I'm going to come to that a little bit later because it's slightly niche, not much later, but I've got instructions and a prompt to help you to do that. Again, just going back to a quick note on versions. So as I said, with the basic version, it's going to be slightly different. So those custom instructions are available in the basic version, exactly the same place. Here you can see, and you can see I basically haven't got any yet. But it won't. So once you set them, they'll be set in the chat, which is great, obviously, but they won't also be set across like Word and Outlook and Teams. Whereas if you've got Premium, it'll just automatically put those custom instructions across everything. So in that basic version or free version, it will only sort of apply to the chat. So you'll need to actually, if you want those instructions, you'll basically need to paste them in at the start of every session if you're in kind of Word, for example. All right. Well, speaking of pasting stuff in, I feel like we've reached that point of every session where we need a little kind of safety briefing. So before we kind of get into some more kind of useful stuff, I just wanted to kind of raise the flag at this point and say, look, Microsoft 365 Copilot is brilliant for folks working in care. It's got each model has its pros and cons. What it's good for, it is an appropriately managed business environment. It comes with like enterprise level data security. You see that little green shield there with the tick that tells you that it's got that, which is brilliant. But that doesn't mean that kind of every use of personal or sensitive information is automatically appropriate. And so you still need to have clarity about this. You need really to have a policy as an organization about this. So I wouldn't use, and I wouldn't recommend using Copilot, for example, to create care plans or to process live care record information. For that sort of work, um, I would look first to like a purpose-built care product that's got kind of appropriate governance, access controls, auditability, clinical safeguards. So there's tons that you can be doing with Copilot. There's so much that you can be doing. So don't kind of hold off and think, oh, I can't use it. No, you definitely can. You definitely should be. But just be aware that in those sorts of use cases, you shouldn't, in my opinion, be putting, for example, like service user personally identifiable information into Copilot. Okay, that's your sort of safety briefing done with. But on that kind of same safety sort of theme, this is something that can catch people out a lot. Copilot is, like all AIs, it's very confident. Sometimes it's confidently right, and sometimes it's confidently wrong. And the problem is, of course, you don't know which is which. It's called a hallucination. So it's one of the things that's really important to understand about any AI tool is that it's trained to produce this plausible kind of fluent text, any generative AI that is. But sometimes if it doesn't have the information there, it will fill in the gaps. That's why it's so important to give it all the context it needs. Of course, in most industries, that's just annoying, but in a regulated care environment, it could be genuinely problematic. If Copilot confidently tells you what a regulation says and that's a bit wrong and you act on it, that's obviously a risk and that's on you. So, because, you've got to use AI for the right thing. So let's make Copilot, let's talk about ways that we can make it more cautious and kind of ways that we can kind of protect ourselves and introduce safeguards. So first of all, remember when I added those custom instructions, I had a line in there which was like, if you're not fully confident, flag it explicitly. And I said, you could add in other phrases there, like ask it to say things like, I'm not certain, but. So that's not going to make Copilot perfect, but that's one thing that we can do. It makes those gaps more visible, and visible gaps are kind of more manageable, whereas obviously if it's hidden, they're not. Second, I've got, I guess for anything that could influence like a policy or a board decision, your default should be, okay, well, show me what this answer is based on. Like, show me where you've got this. I've got a prompt here, so just give you an example. So here's the prompt. And by the way, just take a sip of water. It is very warm today. I'm going to give you all these resources. So stuff like prompts, the instructions for moving from ChatGPT, all that kind of stuff, I'll provide it afterwards. So if you've signed up for this, or you'll be able to find it also in the description if you come back. So here's a useful kind of prompt framework. Using only the policy document I have attached or referenced, answer this question, and then you've got your question in there. For example, what is that escalation process for a safeguarding concern? For each point, cite the policy heading or section and include a short supporting extract. If the policy doesn't support the question, say, not found in the supplied policy, do not fill gaps from general knowledge. So let's just demonstrate that. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to start a new chat. I'm going to drop that prompt in. I'm going to I'll put myself into work mode up here so that I can then, rather than picking up a policy and like dragging it and dropping it, I can use the /command feature. Again, that's something that you'll get with premium. Why doesn't it say premium here? I don't know. But let me drop in a policy, which is a sort of a dummy policy document, which has got some stuff, but I know it hasn't got, the AI basically shouldn't find the answers from here. So let's see how it does. Okay, so I've asked it for escalation process for a safeguarding concern. I've put in this key policy based only on the context of this summary. The escalation process for a safeguarding concern is as follows. And then it's got, don't investigate yourself, record concern immediately. Okay. And then it's given me, okay, here are the gaps. So the document provides a clear sequence of escalation actions, but it doesn't explicitly label these steps as an escalation pathway. It does not define thresholds. Therefore, if you need formal escalation criteria, these are not found in the supply policy and would need checking the full scope of safeguarding policy. So that's done a good job. It's found the stuff that's helpful. It's cited it, so I can like click on that. It'll take me to that document. I don't think it'll take me to the specific point in there, which I've always found a bit frustrating. But anyway, I guess it'll get there, won't it? But then it is at the same time, it's telling me, okay, here are the gaps. Here's what to look out for. So that's super helpful. Let's go back. The third kind of tip, I suppose, and again, this is only works for premium folks, but if you need to make, like if you've got to go to the board with something and you want to be absolutely sure about it, or commissioners or an inspector, you can use this tool, which is called Researcher. It won't work from kind of any old data. It'll search for real cited sources with references that you can check. So we're not going to go deep into Researcher today, but the rule is like anything that really needs to stand up to scrutiny, I would use Researcher rather than just a chat. So you can get to that easily here. If you go on the left-hand side, all agents, I've got it sort of pinned here and here because it's definitely one of the best agents here, but you'll be able to find it down here, and you go into that, and yeah, it'll give you a much more like deeper dive, much more analytical. It works almost like a PhD researcher that you've got on hand. So super valuable. Okay. Again, with the basic version, you won't have that. You can see here, like basic has you've got some agents, but you haven't got researcher. He says, let me just check. I'm not picking that up. Ooh. No, it's not coming up. So that's something that you only get with premium. Okay. So let's say we've got this prompt. Let's say you've got a prompt that you really like. Something that folks don't use very often is once you've developed a prompt that encourages that kind of safer behavior, save it and make it reusable. So it's quite easy to do. You just hover over your prompt and select this sort of bookmark icon, hit save prompt. You can change the name of it, the title of it. What's again slightly frustrating, you can't actually tweak the prompt here, so that I can't edit that at all. And so I'd almost like, once I've got one that I'm happy with, I'd almost kind of type it in with the gap for the thing. So in this case, like I don't want it to always ask that same question. I sort of want a gap for my question. But anyway, that's how you save a prompt. And once you've saved it, it just means that you can. So let me just explain what I mean, because sometimes I go a bit fast. So what I mean by that is I've got this prompt that I like. I want to save it, but I kind of want whoever's using it next time to know, okay, you've got to put in your question. So I would sort of go like this, question, hit shift return, so it doesn't just, because if you hit return, hit enter, it'll hit the sort of go button. Okay, I've got it there, and then I would hit go, and then obviously it's not, I don't want it to run because it hasn't got the right documents here, but once it's done that, I can then save it, bookmark it, and I'll have that in future. So in order to get to your saved prompts, you just click on these three buttons. So just underneath your normal chat window, and they'll come up. I've got some prompts there. So this is the one that I'm talking about. I sort of saved earlier. What was I going to say? So yeah, so it just means obviously you've got that there without kind of rebuilding it every time or finding it somewhere. Maybe you've got a file somewhere else. No, it's already there for you in Copilot. And then for me, like what's more, that's kind of super helpful for you personally, but the more interesting opportunity is, you're able to then share those with your team so that once you've got something that works, everyone can use it. So this is a good one for kind of, what I do is I just click on this share prompt here, and I can copy the link or share to team, and it'll share it in Teams, choose my team, and then hit share. So that's a really nice feature. Like here, like this would be, as an example, yeah, like that's a useful. I had another one ready actually. I'm annoyed that it's lost it for me, but another good example would be something like, okay, check the tone of this before sending, and you have a prompt which says, read this email draft. Is the tone appropriate for a family who has just raised a complaint, for example? Flag anything that could land badly, even if it's factually correct. And that would give you like a good, that would be a great prompt that you could then use in future. Save that. Okay. So it's more than just like a productivity trick. It means that you're building up this library as a team, and it starts to turn your AI use into kind of safer AI use. That's kind of a repeatable team habit. Of course, like you can't have like a prompt for every single scenario, but and that's why it's so sort of important to make sure your team is trained, like they're trained to use AI properly. They're given like those sort of good prompting fundamentals. I always say it's a bit like when you're learning an instrument, you can learn like to play like 10 songs, or, and that's great. You've got these 10 prompts that are super useful, but how you should learn an instrument is you learn the fundamentals, you learn your scales. And that means, once you've got those fundamentals in place, you can play anything. It's the same with this. Like once you've got good prompting fundamentals, you can turn that to any question. Okay, so I'm just going to save this as a useful prompt, like email tone. Great. And that's just a super useful one for staff they're not, a lot of folks are great at doing their job, but they're not great at writing email communications. So you just help them out with a prompt like that. Okay, now I said I would help you switch this move from ChatGPT to Copilot, because like that is the kind of classic journey that a lot of care leaders, well, a lot of anyone really goes on. Like ChatGPT was the first one you used. It built up all this helpful context over time because it's able to draw on all your chats and slowly builds up this context. And then you switch over and you're really disappointed. You're like, this thing doesn't know me. And so it's not like by doing this, it's going to know you completely, but this will at least get you some of the way. And then again, once you start using it a lot, Copilot will then slowly build up that knowledge of you and that context. So how you do it is, I've got a prompt I made earlier here. So yeah, here it is, how to switch from ChatGPT to Copilot. So we'll kind of do it in a couple of steps. I won't kind of go through it in real time because it takes a little bit of time, but I'd pull up my ChatGPT here, and I put in this demo. So I won't read through the whole thing, but yeah, you drop in this prompt. So export all of my stored memories and any context you've learned about me from the past conversations. Preserve my words verbatim where possible, especially for instructions and preferences. And then it has, it's kind of got 5 categories. So it's got instructions, so rules that I've explicitly asked you to follow. And like I said earlier, you'll find that ChatGPT has stored some rules that automatically without you realizing that you may not want. So it can be super interesting. My identity, so just important stuff about me, career stuff, so what is my role, um, my kind of expertise, projects, that's getting into stuff that's a bit more transient, I suppose, and then preferences, opinions, taste. So, and then it has some specifics on the output. So here's where I've kind of run it earlier. You can see, so this is what it then assembles. So you can see it, I've given it some instructions like use British English, use N dash, not M dash. I said, okay, so here, for example, be talkative and conversational, use quick and clever humor where appropriate. I don't like that. And when I realized, I was like, oh, that's why ChatGPT drives me crazy. It's because it always tries to make a joke at the end of every thing. I just want to be concise. So yeah, you'll find a bunch of stuff there. It can be super interesting. Take that, paste it into a separate document, go through it and figure out what you want to keep, what you don't. And then paste that into Copilot. And then put in this prompt. So you are an expert AI systems designer, helping me turn a large personal context export into structured, usable assets for an AI assistant. And then it says, you know, this is what I'm giving you, these 5 things. Your job is to transform it into 3 distinct outputs. So I'm putting it into the outputs that Copilot lets me. Copilot's really quite rigid in terms of what it allows. So first is custom instructions. That's just going to be like 15, 20 sentences max. Like that's all you can really have in there. And then give me like memory entries. And again, we better put those in. And then last, because it's quite limited, it's more limited than something like Claude, for example. I just sort of said, okay, and then put everything else just into a context file, which I'll then be able to just draw on from time to time, literally like a Word document. And then, so let's get rid of that. Where do I put it? Oh my gosh, I'm too sweaty to actually press the back button. Right, where's my... Did I close it? I must have closed it. Ugh, okay. I must have closed our friend Copilot and all the slides. Genius. Oh, it's back. Okay, great. I don't know why I did that. Okay, great stuff. So here is where I've kind of, I've got the demo here somewhere. Here we go. ChatGPT to Copilot over. So then here's where I've put in that prompt, and then I've put in all of the output from ChatGPT, which is there. You can see, and then it's sort of outputted it as like we said. So it's given me these different versions. So I would then take that, for example, I'd take the custom instructions section, and then I'd paste that into the, you know, like I already showed you, go into settings and paste it in there. So that is, yeah, a solution I've sort of come up with because I was just aware folks are going to, it's just something that you sort of folks ask for occasionally. And I thought, well, let me just put that together. It's not such a big thing. So yeah, that prompt and resource will be available at the end. Okay, great stuff. All right. So you can see that as I said at the start, like Copilot is brilliant for like it does work well for a structured organization. Like it has the benefits of a Microsoft environment, a tenant where you're able to draw on. You saw I did like the slash command, and it brought up a certain document. And so it's all linked in with OneDrive and SharePoint. Like it's super valuable. But just something I wanted to flag is this. It does bring this kind of somewhat unexpected downside, which is that Copilot can kind of overshare. Because Copilot, it will respect existing permissions. So if you can see one file in SharePoint, your Copilot can see that file. And that is reassuring, like that's helpful, but it means that it can also expose permission problems that were already there, that folks that weren't really an issue, as it were. So a document that's sitting in a poorly managed SharePoint site may once have, be very little chance that a staff member would stumble across it. Whereas now Copilot can find that information and can surface it. So the new risk is now that Copilot, it's not that it's going to break those rules, those permissions, but it is going to make an old oversharing problem suddenly become visible. So, an outdated policy draft, HR material, confidential operational information suddenly becomes discoverable to people who did have access but shouldn't have. And another risk is that, you've got this policy and obsolete procedures. Let's say you've got an old safeguarding procedure from like 2021 that's now been superseded by a newer approved procedure, but the old site is still living in SharePoint, it's still unused, and it's kind of forgotten. So imagine someone asks Copilot, or what is our safeguarding escalation process? If both old and new information is available, there's a risk of confusion there. And so, and even if it kind of cites, okay, that this is, this is the, even if it cites what document it got it from, like you may not really have the wherewithal to look in and see, oh, actually that's from that old draft. So just something I just wanted to flag and make you aware of. So the way around that is really when you're setting up Copilot for your organization, or if you already have, you can go back and do this. Just go back, archive those inactive sites. In order to make Copilot sort of useful across your organization, make sure you sort of audit those inactive sites, audit and tighten permissions so that it doesn't kind of create these problems. All right. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest time drains for any care leader, email and meetings. Because if there's one thing that, I hear consistently across not just care, but anywhere really, it's that the inbox is overwhelming. So here's something that you can start doing today. I've got to say, again, this is something that's only available on the premium version. There's a few aspects, just super helpful things. So first of all, for example, here I've got an email thread. It's like 11 emails long. I just go up to this box, I hit summary, and it gives me a nice summary, kind of talking me through everything. A couple of really helpful prompts at this point, like follow-up prompts. Okay, so I'm not having to read through like tons and tons of email. I can get the point here, but I can also kind of say I can ask Copilot, okay, what things do I need to be aware of? Let's say, do I have any outstanding actions? So I can kind of ask questions of this email thread. I realize I didn't respond to, I don't know if you're still here, Noah, but thanks for saying hi 40 minutes ago. Good to have you here if you're still here. And so I can ask those questions, and here it's giving me, okay, this is what you need to be aware of. It's the inspection context. They're talking about staffing pressures. It's actually giving me quite a long rundown here. It's like brilliant. I probably shouldn't have asked such a big question, because now it's, okay, here's helpful. What's still unresolved? Whether and how to contact the care inspectorate. Okay, so it's giving me, okay, here's the practical stuff, basically. So that's a really helpful little tip. In under 10 seconds, you've got the key points, what decisions are made, what I've still got to do. Now, like I say, that's not available in basic. The other super helpful point with just how to handle your inbox is just asking like Copilot to prioritize stuff within your inbox for you. So, and I'm going to kind of combine this point, prioritizing your inbox, with this how to kind of schedule prompts, so that I'm going to basically get it to check my weekend inbox for me. So when I come back on Monday morning, it's going to prioritize it and I don't have to wade through every single email. So I'm going to start by writing the prompt I would like Copilot to run each Monday morning. I'm just going to drop it in here. So review my emails received between Friday at 5 p.m. and Monday at 8 a.m. Summarize anything that appears urgent or requires action from me today. For each item, include the sender, the subject, why it may matter, and the next action that I should consider. Separate urgent actions from information-only emails. Do not send replies or take action on my behalf. Okay. So, it's obviously not finding anything. I did try and, let me just think how I could, because I'm doing this with dummy accounts, obviously, and I think it's having some problem with, I'll tell you what I'll do, actually. I'll just go back to one I made earlier. Here we go. So this is what I think it's sort of come unhooked with something. I'm not quite sure, but anyway. So yeah, I've searched your mailbox for emails in the requested window. Important information. I did not find any, because basically, like I say, this is a dummy account, which is why it's sort of not quite right. But it has kind of found some stuff. Okay, that it's flagging as urgent. So this is action focused. Okay, I've got to come back on this. So, and it's kind of flagging it like with amber, blue, no information needed. So I'm just going to read through that on my Monday morning, and rather than like wading through like hundreds of emails, it's flagging stuff straight away that, okay, this is what you've got to look at. It's urgent. This is less urgent, but will need to be dealt with fairly soon. And then, okay, here's all the other stuff. So I've got that. That's super helpful. Like I say, now I want to think about, rather than having to remember to type it every Monday morning, I can actually schedule it. So again, I hover over it, click on this little clock icon. The prompt's already there. I then set when I want it to go. So like I said, it's going to be every Monday. Say it's at, I know you're all up at 5 a.m. checking your email probably, but great. And then I can also ask it, I can tick this box, so receive an email when responses are ready. That just means, just reminds me basically that I'm running this thing, because I'm not necessarily going to be in Copilot in that moment, am I? Great. So that's now set up and scheduled for me. Just some other ideas for like what would be other kind of examples of helpful scheduled prompts. So let me find. So I had some examples. I don't know where I've put them. So here they are. So stuff like you could have, okay, every Friday afternoon at 3, summarize the key things that happened this week across my emails and calendar. What was resolved? What's still open? What do I need to action first? You could have, let's say, for example, you have a weekly leadership meeting. Let's say it's at like 3 every Thursday. Okay, so that means every Thursday at 11, prepare a brief agenda summary for my leadership meeting, pull in any outstanding actions from last week, and flags items that might need a decision. So in that way, you're just taking some of that manual work, repetitive tasks. Like this is the stuff that AI is brilliant at. So it's quite a small feature, but it changes Copilot from something that you've got to remember to use into something that can just help you kind of start the week more prepared, get to meetings more prepared. You kind of set it once, check the results, and then And of course, you can always like you can go into your schedule prompts up here, and you can like manage them. So you can pause it, you could edit it, you could turn it off. So and I think you can have like up to 10. So it's it's flexible and it can change over time. All right, we're pretty much there. I've got one last demo to give you, and it's again just around email, because I just want to give you a few around email because it's just such a it's just such a killer use of time, and Copilot does have some helpful tools that are right there within your Outlook. So this one is just obviously, because your inbox isn't just incoming messages, it's outgoing ones too, and the quality of your communications with families or commissioners or regulators, that really matters. So you can just quite easily set Copilot up to draft in your voice and do that by default. So what you do is when you're in Outlook, go to settings here, go to Copilot at the bottom on the left-hand side, and draft instructions. And you can drop instructions in here. So you can see, for example, I've got like write in British English, start every email with hi, name, tone, clear, warm, professional. If it's external emails, slightly more formal, add brief context and polite framing. Internal emails, you can be a bit more direct. My classic thing, use N dash, not M dash. So yeah, and then I've given it a couple of examples. There's ways to create this. So for example, I think I put it in here actually. You can paste in examples of emails, or you can, you can paste in examples. I've also got, what I'll do is I'll drop it again. I'll drop this into the resources at the end, but I've got a prompt that you can use that will then kind of draw from your stuff and will create these rules for you that you can then drop into Copilot. So again, I'll drop that in. I don't know if I've got it here actually. Let me just see if I've got it as an example, just to quickly show you. Yeah, here it is. Now, of course, it's not letting me because there we go. So yeah, there's the prompt. Your Copilot custom instruction assistant helping me. So it will just basically ask you a few questions, and then it will spit out something that's like this that will just then talk to you, and then like I said, you'll just drop it in here in settings. And it just means that when you then go into to write an email, again, this is, like I've said before, this is something that you get with the premium version. To a family, explaining that the care review for their loved one is coming up soon. Explain that we want to review in particular falls prevention because there have been some concerns around falls. Make sure that the tone is not alarmist. I don't know, I'm just talking, but yeah, you can obviously ask it to write, and I mean, I kind of gave it a bit of a tip there with the tone, but it will write it in your tone anyway. Okay, good stuff. I've kind of set it to go now, and it's not going to go for ages, but okay. So yeah, we're coming to the end now. Obviously, okay, here we go. So I'm right to let you know that we'll soon be holding the next routine care review for your loved one. As part of this review, So okay, it's not done a great job because it's literally, as you can see, yeah. Anyway, as is always the way, you've got to go in, you've got to check what's right, what's going out. Of course, I would change the name. I would never just take dear family member. I'd put in their name. and I'll go through, I'm going to check every output, no matter how good Copilot may be tuned to me. I'm always going to check it, aren't I? Okay, wonderful. So we kind of, like I said, we've sort of reached the end. I just wanted to end with one last kind of golden rule, which kind of covers everything. Just simply this: if you're not sure how to use Copilot for something, ask Copilot. So AI is really good at using AI. So if your situation is, oh, I've got a 40-page PDF on infection control and I need to brief my team in 5 minutes, how can you help me? It will tell you which function to use. It will kind of give you helpful suggestions. So if you're not quite sure how to use AI, ask AI. Tell it like what you're trying to do. Tell it that you don't know much about it and you're still figuring it out. It'll kind of take that context and go amazingly far with it. You don't need to know every feature. Like what we've gone through today is, like I say, hopefully some basics and essentials that will just it will just save you time in the long run. But yeah, you don't have to know everything. Just start using it. And if you're not sure what it can do, ask it directly. That is the mindset that will turn you from being an occasional user into someone who really gets value from it every week. All right, so let me bring this together. Today we've covered 10 things. I've kind of put 8, but it's actually more than this because we did the ChatGPT thing as well, and some other stuff with the inbox. But these are all about how Copilot kind of behaves for you in a care context. So we looked at like custom instructions, how to teach Copilot who you are, make it more cautious and evidence aware. We looked at the mode selector, like choosing whether to ask it to, use go quick or use thinking deeper, knowing, okay, well, if it's something that's really a proper problem, like for example, if I'm going to use it to get all of my context from ChatGPT, I'm going to make sure I choose the thinking mode in ChatGPT or Copilot because that's a big task. We looked at setting up instructions so that Outlook email drafts have the good tone. We looked at using it to inbox triage to kind of summarize your inbox for you. We looked at scheduling prompts. We looked at, for example, you can use it so that it will do that every Monday morning. It will go through your inbox for you and pick out the important stuff from the weekend. We looked at how you can share prompts that are really useful, save them for future use for yourself, but also share them with your team. All these they're features, but they're also habits, and like any habit, like the more you do it, the easier it gets. Using Copilot well, it's not like it's something that you can kind of, it's not an accident, it's a setup decision. So I would just say a little bit of time here. It's like that old adage, like if you want to like chop down a tree, like spend the first half of the time that you've got sharpening the axe. Like if you just spend this time at the start, it'll then set you up really well for future use, and hopefully you'll get a lot more use out of it. So if you'd like any help setting this up for your leadership team, or if you want to talk through what an AI training program or proper AI governance would look like for your organization, do get in touch. My details are there. You can also find lots more resources like training tutorials. I've got podcast interviews with care leaders who are doing this stuff and who are perhaps further ahead than most of us. Got interviews with them. You can sign up for my weekly newsletter with helpful tips. All of that is at aiinsocialcare.com. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you got real value from this. Oh, let me take down my thing, otherwise you can't see my URL. I hope you got a lot of value from this. Please do follow up with any questions. And like I said, I'll share all the resources from today. But just go forth and happy co-piloting.